remember I've been talking to Philippe for quite some time about his art. He was really part of the Australian and the British, almost Dada surrealist movement to begin with. The famous story he tells about, Lady Gaga's meat dress. Well, a few decades before, he created that look. You want to tell us briefly about the...
Yeah, that was in 1970.
1970.
In London. I decided I want to make a sculpture, and I decided to make it out of meat because that was going to be cheap. I could get discarded meat from butchers in Covent Garden, which I did. So I got a pile of meat, and I made a sculpture of a man sitting in a chair in the gallery. The gallerist was crazier than I was to let me do it, and so we didn't know that across the street was Princess Margaret's favorite restaurant, and she ate there every Tuesday. And she complained to Scotland Yard about the odour in the street. And I was in the gallery when Scotland Yard detectives arrived, and they said, "There's been a royal complaint.
Quiet, please. Quiet, please.
There's been a royal complaint about the odour in the street." And they said, "And what is that?" And there's this rotting meat in the chair. And the gallerist said, "Well, that's a work of art, sir." And they said, "We don't care what it is, get rid of it." So the gallerist took it to his home in Hampstead, which was a posh neighbourhood, still is, in London. And the neighbours hated Germans because of the Blitz. And he was German, the gallerist. So they called the neighbours called Scotland Yard Homicide Squad. And I'm proud of this. I think I'm the only artist whose work was mistaken for a homicide victim. And so they arrived with guns drawn, and the chief detective said, "Oh, not the bloody meat sculpture again. We told you to get rid of it." So anyway, it caused a sensation in London at the time. It was on the cover of Time Out and so on and so forth. And so I became known in London for quite a few things, but that was a highlight for me. I did all kinds of painting. Then out of that, I don't know how it quite happened, but the Beatles asked me to, I think they saw the meat sculpture on the cover of Time Out. They thought that was interesting, and they asked me to do to contribute to the Beatles illustrated lyrics. So there's quite a few of my works in the Beatles illustrated lyrics. London was incredible then. I mean, the so-called swinging London was really swinging. 1968, 69, living above me, I was living with Eric Clapton. I'm very good at, one of my talents is name dropping. I lived with Eric Clapton, and I was painting, and he was guitaring. And I had an exhibition in London at the Clytie Jessup Gallery in Chelsea. And I was in there, more name dropping, and Mick Jagger walked in, and there was a drawing I'd done of a singer with a harmonica. And Mick Jagger thought it was him. And he really liked it, he thought it was him. And then he said to Clytie, I was there, he said, "How much is that?" And she said, "I think it's £10. And he said, "Oh," and then he pulled out a wad of cash. And he said, "Look, I could give you £5 because I need the rest of this for the weekend." I thought, what an ass, what an ass. So I've always remembered. But anyway.
Well, Coke before art.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, of course.
So I had. I'm not going to go on and on, but I had a very successful exhibitions there, the London Times compared me to they said something like Philippe Mora can be compared to David Hockney, but Mora is totally moralistic, whereas Hockney is decorative. That was quite a
well, he is decorative.
He's decorative. and apparently I'm moralistic.
Yes.
So
Speaking of,
I'm moralistic. That's the end of my rant.
and over there is a piece that is by you in collaboration with the artist who did the Cream album covers, Disraeli Gears and Wheels of Fire? Or-
Yes, Martin Sharp. He was
Martin Sharp.
Martin Sharp. He was the cartoonist for the Oz magazine, and I avoided being arrested, but everyone else was arrested involved at the time we were doing this, because we had decided to give the one issue to schoolgirls to edit. This is London, 1970. So with these schoolgirls did the most obscene issue. I mean, they had pigs fucking, I mean, you couldn't believe it. They were 12 and 13. And Scotland Yard arrived again saying, you know, who published this? And my
You're on
friend
speed
said,
dial,
we did.
Scotland.
Yeah, my friend said, we published it, but we didn't do it. It was these kids did it. And anyway, there was a big court case, the Oz obscenity trial. With protests in the street, John Lennon and Yoko were there saying, "Free the Oz people." And anyway, London was jumping then. In 1968 through 71, quite incredible, actually. It makes everything look so, to use an old word, square now. I think there's so many squares around. You know, it's so square. It's boring.
Yeah, we're the last holdouts, I think.
We're the last non-squares, perpendicular, whatever we are. So London was fantastic, and then I'll end by saying this. Eric said to me, Eric, he became a millionaire overnight from a tour here, the first Cream tour here, and the money came in. I picked up the phone from Stigwood, and Stigwood said, "Is Eric there?" And gave the phone to Eric, and he goes like this, "Fuck! You're kidding me! Fuck!" He puts the phone down and says, "I'm a millionaire." Like that.
Back when it counted to
we
be
had no
millionaire.
money. We were no money at all. I used to steal milk, you know, and suddenly, and then Eric said, same day, he said, "Didn't you want to make a movie?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "How much would that cost?" And I thought of the biggest amount I could, about £5,000. And he said, "Okay, let's go." And so we went to Stigwood, and Eric said to Stigwood, "Philippe wants to make a movie, give him a check for £5,000. And Stigwood goes, "Wait a minute, wait, what's the deal?" and this has ruined me, of course, for forever, because Eric said, "There's no deal. He wants to make a movie. Give him the money." So, with that attitude, it doesn't work in Hollywood too well, that attitude. But,
And yet you've been very successful in Hollywood too, with the Howling, the Beast Within, Communion, where Christopher Walken gets anally probed by an alien.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
Whitley Strieber wrote a bestseller, Communion, and in it he said that he was anally probed by aliens. And when we made the film, I said, "Whitley, are you sure you want me to put this in the film? I'm not trying to be funny, but it's going to follow you around." And he said, "No, that's what happened. That's what happened, you know." And I said, "How big was it?" And he said, "Well, it was about 20 foot long, and it moved like a snake." And I thought, "Oh, that's going to cost them." Anyway, it cost $50,000 to build the effing anal probe. And then
I got one at home for $8.
And I wanted him. I wanted him to approve it. I wanted him to approve it, because otherwise, I didn't want him to come after me when the film's saying, more erect, that it wasn't like. So he arrives with his wife to see the anal probe, who I'd never met. She's a dumpy little woman. And it takes like 4 grips to bring out the anal probe. And she says, "Oh, Whitley, oh my God, I didn't realize it was that big." And he said, "Oh, it was terrible, Anne. It was terrible." And I'll end up with this cut to the film comes out, and we get Whitley on Johnny Carson, which was the biggest thing you could do for a movie. And I'm thinking, God, if Johnny Carson asks him about the anal probe, my career's over. And Johnny Carson says, "It's Johnny Carson, right?" Johnny Carson, "Oh, Whitley Strieber, best-selling author. So Whitley, I understand you got an anal probe from the aliens." and Whitley Strieber says, he turned it, the same guy that spoke to his wife. And he says, Johnny, it was terrible, Johnny, it was terrible. And you can see Johnny Carson going, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he says, what was it like working with Christopher Walken? That's a little bit, but I loved I loved what you said, by the way, introducing your book.
About what?
I loved what you said introducing your book.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can't wait to
Can
read
you
the
tell
book.
me about is this yours?
That's mine.
These,
Up here.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
a Mary
those two,
Warnock
yeah,
below.
so-
These are all here.
That's about, I was intrigued to find out that Dali and Walt Disney became great mates.
Yeah.
Dali, in fact, suggested they swap wives. But Disney said that his wife would prefer the shopping in Beverly Hills. It wouldn't work.
There you go.
And don't go near her because nobody kisses Gala but Dolly. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would
Yeah.
And then this
Yeah.
piece, this is one of our favorites by you, Philippe.
Oh, I
Can you
didn't see
tell us,
that
tell
one.
us what's happening
So
here?
this is, Picasso is unfashionable at the moment, but I still like him.
I do
And
too.
This is my imagining Picasso at the bar at Musso and Frank's.
How fabulous.
And that's the old cash register there.
It's still there
And
now.
that's him being inspired by people he saw at the bar at
I love
Musso's.
that. I love that.
So he was painting from realism, actually.
Yeah, exactly. It's photographic realism.
I love that.
So yeah, Picasso, he said that it's okay for paintings to tell stories. I took that to heart
Oh, yeah.
with this.
No, I love
And these things are really satirical. All of these images are of paintings that sold at auction for 200 million. And I thought, geez, I could just might make some money. And so,
There might be one zero less.
it
but, you know,
might be
still.
1 0 less, but
Right.
yeah. So that's what you say. They're all 200 million. Modigliani, Munch.
It's such a great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Beautiful
sir.
work.
Oh, thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
A great story.
Thank you, Philippe. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Eddie, do you want to tell us about